Quantum healing, the future of medicine.
I was personally a victim of that. I went through an absolutely horrible trauma when I was young. It was absolutely horrible. And I was basically left alone after the trauma had happened for a few hours. And it's because people were so unaware way back in time and just not thinking and panicking and going into action. I was left behind. And I can tell you, the only good thing that has come out of that was that I was very determined as I grew up and as this PTSD was really interfering with my life, that I got some level of anger at that point and said, you know what? There has to be a way out of this. If it goes in, it must be able to come out. As an adult, I could just feel it heavy in my body. It was everywhere. And I thought, how does this come out? You can't talk it out. I tried that. I'd been to psychiatrists, psychologists, counselors, churches. I mean, I tried everything and nothing budged that trauma that seemed like it was locked up in my body. So it made me very, very determined to find a solution for that. And I did find a solution. And it's been a very, very long time in coming and very unaccepted, unfortunately, because the mainstream people that we have to see for our physical and mental problems are so turned around on just symptomatic treating and completely unaware of metaphysical trainings or techniques or even aware. I mean, I had a doctor one time, I was beginning stages when I was starting to put pieces together from many different elements. I had to find the pieces and start putting them all together. I remember at that point thinking it would be a good idea to run some of my ideas or some of my enlightenments through a medical doctor. And this is someone that knew me quite well. And I remember in frustration one day, he turned to me and he said, you know what? I don't know what you're talking about. He said, you got to understand, I'm a scientist. If I don't see it under the microscope, it doesn't exist. And that was just such an ignorant remark that I was absolutely blown away at the time. I thought, what? What is he talking about? It doesn't exist? That is our existence. That is the whole of our existence. This physical body and brain and everything else just sort of comes with a package of being a 3D human. We have to take a physical form here. We can't walk around as a spiritual being that you can in the higher dimension. You have to have a body here. That's it. It shocked me that someone thought the human body and who we are as a physical being is it. And they have not even a clue. And then working in medicine, working as a practitioner of medicine and not even realizing the quantum existed even, that there's just millions more to this physical body, there's millions more aspects to it to be discovered and joined together and combined. And no, you didn't learn that, so it doesn't exist. It was a wow moment for me. It was an absolute turning point for me. I went, okay, now I see clearly why we can't change some very awful diseases that we develop in the physical body that can only be removed by tackling things through the quantum and using metaphysics, which is a whole other level of medicine, basically. That's why I said it's the future of medicine, is that we will first assess it from all three aspects, body, mind, and spirit, and to see which is the best way to tackle a particular problem for a person. If you're in a car accident, let's say, of course that's traumatic, but you're not going to come to a metaphysician in order to help at that moment. At that moment, you've got physical injuries that need the healings and the techniques of a physician. That's where you need to be going. At all costs, we have to save life. Unless life is taken, we do everything we can to preserve life. So that's the first person you go to. However, someone's really getting affected by that car accident or whatever that trauma was. Pretty quickly down the road, they start developing post-traumatic stress disorder and many, many disorders. They try to separate all these disorders, and it's this, and then it's that, and it's that disorder, and they have a pill and a drug for all these disorders, and it's all under one umbrella. It all is post-traumatic stress disorders. There's many, many, many disorders, and not everyone develops all the disorders. Some develop one or two, some develop one, some develop a host. These all have to be assessed, and you cannot do a correct assessment if you're only thinking in terms of physical body. There's also the mental body to consider, which physicians also find very difficult to understand. And then for the mental people, they have no choice but to consider the metaphysical aspects of what's happening to this person and the damage that's causing, and how to correct it for this person, and the different stages that they would need to go through in order to correct the situation. Right now we have a very poor medical system. It's just, too much ego is involved, too much, this is my jurisdiction, that's your jurisdiction, can't go over, everything overlaps everything a little. Therefore, you have to know, me as a metaphysician, I can't just know about the physical body, I also have to know about the mental body as well. So my trainings, even to get to where I'm at, you have to understand all aspects. Am I focused on the mental? No. Am I focused on the physical? No. I am the physician. I am focused on the quantum. But everything is interlinked. Everything is together. So you can't possibly be looking at just one aspect and saying that's it, and you're not even looking at the other two aspects. That is just, a very poor paradigm, and that's why so few people get healed, and most people are on some drug or other because they're treating everything so singularly. This will change in the future. This is definitely in the golden age that is not an acceptable paradigm. So people looking, or people in the medicine world, the medical world, I hope that you're listening this can make the adjustments, because certain aspects of medicine is definitely going to disappear and go away, which that is already happening, because people are just totally frustrated with the sort of egotistical drug-induced therapies that seem to be emanating from looking at people symptomatically. It's just not a good way to go, and it's not curing very much. If anything, it's creating more illness, and one has to wonder about that. Why you would want to create more illness. I think we can put two and two together about what that's all about. But it's not to focus on that anymore. It's to let that fall away. It is naturally falling away. It can't sustain going into the 5D. It's not the way it's done in the 5D. 5D is a three-pronged paradigm: body, mind, spirit. That's it. And that's what we're forming the foundation of now, today, 2022, when a lot of the light beings are now being allowed to come out and be outspoken about these things. This is the time to, if you're in those worlds, to start reassessing and looking about where you're going to fit into this world. Because as it stands now, I can tell you these are going to fade away. The way these systems are run and so forth is not working and will not work in the fifth dimension at all. So there's just this wonderful space where you can now, over and above everything you've learned, you can expand out, you can expand your medical world, and you can do more readings, and you can study more mental things, you can study more metaphysical things, and how to incorporate that in your own personal medical world, which was sort of not allowed in the schools that are teaching these symptomatic practices only. Of course, it's good to know about symptoms. That's obviously a good thing. But if that's all you're doing, you can look around and see how poorly that is coming about, that people are restless and not happy. As we're ascending, people are going to be less and less happy to go to those kinds of services. So I hope, at least from that point of view, if you're in a trauma, you can be very, very helpful if you just sit with that person and ride it out with them and resource that person before you leave them.